you picture this? You know, rockin' with CYPT. Podcast of the D with Clay and the crew. It's like my CTV. They be giving game out so much, you could take the same route. Especially if you take risks, this YouTube view makes sense.
What up, though? What up, though? What up, though? You're listening to the CYPT podcast. It's the podcast of the strongest, fastest, most powerful print shop on this side of the Eastern Seaboard.
Oh,
I'm just Niles.
it's your boy Boogie behind the camera.
I'm Clay, also known as Fearless.
Today we have with us Mr. Willie Campbell.
Yes.
Of Armed Safely.
Yep.
CPL, CCW instructor.
Yep. CPL, CCW instructor.
How long?
I've been certified as a NRA instructor, training counselor for over 10 years.
Here in Detroit?
Yep. I teach in Detroit. I've taught classes in Illinois, Ohio, but mainly Detroit, yeah.
So NRA, what does NRA stand for?
National Rifle Association.
Okay, so rifles and pistols.
Yeah. Rifles, pistols, shotguns. I just teach pistol.
Just
so
pistol.
I'm certified as a NRA basic pistol instructor, purse protection in the home, NRA CCW, purse protection outside the home, and I'm also an NRA training counselor, which means I can teach the classes if someone wants to be an instructor. I teach those classes as well.
Okay.
So I teach the student level classes, and most people take those classes because they want to be they want to get their concealed pistol license or CCW. And then I've taught a lot of classes. I try to teach instructor level classes about once a month, and those classes are for people who want to teach the CPL classes themselves. So,
Now, what are the requirements to teach a CPL class?
so the state of Michigan requires that you are certified with the national organization. The NRA is the largest national organization that certifies instructors. I forgot to mention that I'm also a USCCA instructor, which stands for U.S. Concealed Firearm Association. I should know that. Don't tell USCCA what the acronym means. So the NRA is the largest nationally recognized organization that teach gun safety classes. So the state of Michigan recognizes that certification. So if you have your NRA certification or USCCA instructor certification, you can teach the CPL class in Michigan. And Michigan requires that class be 8 hours total. So it's divided into the classroom portion, and Michigan also requires that there's a shooting portion where they shoot a minimum of 30 rounds of ammo.
And this is the teach class.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so to teach the class, the NRA has different requirements than USCCA, so I'll speak on the NRA.
Okay.
So it requires that you take a student level class in basic pistol, and then you take an instructor level class. And normally when I teach the instructor level class, I'll teach both the student and instructor level class that week. It's about a week of training.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so 5 to 7 days, depending on how quickly we cover the curriculum. And once you successfully complete that training, I'll submit what's called the class roster to NRA headquarters, and headquarters will certify you. You'll go on the NRA website, pay your certification instructor fee, and you can start teaching your own classes then.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, yep.
They want you shooting 30 rounds. When?
To take the student level class, you have to shoot a minimum of 30 rounds in Michigan so you can apply for your concealed pistol license. To be an NRA instructor, you're going to shoot a lot more than that.
Okay.
But if you want to just go to the county clerk and apply or put an application to get your concealed pistol license, you have to take an 8-hour class in Michigan. That 8-hour class is, most instructors, most gun ranges are going to have you shoot at least 50 rounds of ammo. So the ranges that I work at, you're going to shoot a minimum of 50 rounds, not 30 rounds.
So off bail, I'm shooting the gun.
Yeah,
for the class.
Yeah, if you want to get your concealed pistol license, you have to shoot and on the range, and you have to shoot safely. Yeah.
What typically does these classes consist of? Is it like watching videos or?
Yeah, run us through like
a
class.
Run us through a whole class.
Okay, so there was a change post-COVID or during COVID. The NRA did offer online training, but that was through Zoom. So you weren't just watching a video. The classroom portion, some of the instructors, what they did because of COVID, would teach using Zoom, the classroom portion. And then they would teach in person, the range portion, and they would use that. Once they finished both of those portions, the person would get their certificate and take that certificate to the county clerk. Typically, most gun ranges, most instructors, the classes are taught in person. Mm-hmm. So where I teach, you'll start with the classroom portion. Around 12:30, we'll do the shooting portion. Once we finish the shooting portion, we'll come back into the classroom and we'll finish up the classroom portion. And, the entire course will be, 8 hours.
And that's done all at one time?
Typically it's done in one day.
And you have a school, where is this done at? Like, do you come to the person's house, or you can do it anywhere, or?
Well, it's up to you. The state doesn't require that you have to take it at a gun range or at a school. You have some instructors that'll come to you in your home and teach it. Most people will, go to a gun shop and, take a one-day class. And then when they finish the class, they'll be given their certificate, which is just proof of training. And they'll take that certificate to the county clerk's office, and the county will take over from there. They'll get fingerprinted at the county. The fee is $115. They'll run your fingerprints. All of that information is sent over to the state police. State police will run the background check, and if everything comes back good, they'll have their concealed pistol license mailed to their home, or they'll get a denial letter mailed to their home.
Okay.
Yep.
And that concealed pistol license only lets me shoot pistols, right? That's the only thing I'm okay to shoot?
Well, the concealed pistol license will allow you to carry a pistol on your person concealed, except for pistol-free zones. So you can't carry a rifle or a shotgun on you with the concealed pistol license. It only allows you to carry a pistol concealed in the state of Michigan, except for pistol-free zones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's the difference between a CPL and CCW, or a
CCW?
CCW.
Yeah, they're the same. So
they're the exact same.
They're the exact same thing, and that's a common question. People think a CPL and a CCW is different. It's the exact same thing. So for marketing, most people will market a CCW class, or they'll market a CCW/CPL class. Mm. The license is called a concealed pistol license, or CPL. But CCW, CPL, it means the exact same thing. There's no difference.
And when the Green Rush first hit Michigan, a lot of people had questions about having their medical card and their because I'm assuming you get access a lot too.
Oh yeah.
What is the actual situation? They say you can have your medical card and your CPL. Mm-hmm. You just can't have them both in the same place.
Right.
They said you can't. They said you can. Which one is factual? Cause
okay. All right. So I'm going to tell you how I teach it.
Okay.
And hopefully I don't get picked up by the Detroit police, or
What do you tell your students?
I tell my students that the marijuana and guns do not mix.
Okay.
All right. You can't do both.
So, neither does liquor.
Neither does alcohol. Right. Absolutely. But there is actually a legal limit to drink alcohol and be in possession of a firearm. But
snap! Really?
Yeah.
No.
But the legal limit is 0.02. So if you blow a 0.02, you're over the limit to be in possession of a firearm.
How many beers is that?
Who knows? No. So I tell everyone,
it's probably on your body composition and what you ate, all that type of stuff.
Right, and you don't want to play around with that. And I think, and this is all speculation, I think the only reason they made it 0.02 is because when you blow, those machines are not 100% accurate.
Right.
Sometimes you can blow a 0.02 or maybe a 0.01 and you actually haven't had any alcohol. You might have had like a breath mint, and it will give you a false positive. Mm-hmm. So to stop these false positives, they said, okay, let's just make it 0.02. But I tell all of my students, if you have something to drink, you need to take yourself out of possession. So, point 02, I tell everyone to ignore that. If you have something to drink, don't carry a gun.
Right. So back to the
marijuana.
Back to the marijuana.
Okay. All right. So you have to choose one or the other. And I don't judge. If you want to smoke marijuana, as long as you do it responsibly, listen, who am I to judge? But you can't smoke marijuana and be in possession of a firearm because you are impaired. And that's actually in the law. You cannot be impaired and be in possession of a firearm. So there's no legal argument that you can make that you test positive for marijuana and you had a gun on you that you weren't impaired. So you're setting yourself up for failure if you have your concealed pistol license and you smoke marijuana. The other issue with marijuana is more than likely a person who has purchased a gun and smokes marijuana, they've already committed a felony. So most people purchase a...
Is this a statistic?
Yeah. So, okay. So you have federal law and you have state law.
Yeah.
All right. So if you buy a gun... Go ahead.
I think you was thinking about something else. You say he's already broken the law. Are you saying that he's a criminal, or by him smoking and carrying the firearm, that's illegal?
All right. Okay. So it depends on a marijuana smoker. If they've bought a pistol from an FFL dealer,
right,
they've broken the law. They've broken federal law, because on the application that you have to fill out to purchase a pistol from an FFL dealer, they specifically say, "Are you addicted to marijuana?"
Oh, okay.
Now, what the marijuana smoker
he's going to put
done,
no.
They put no, and they have just lied on a federal application, and it's a felony to lie on a federal application. So they've already committed a felony.
I didn't misunderstand what he said.
Yeah.
You were right. I did.
So, like, what are the ramifications if you're caught with, if you're impaired and you have a concealed weapon?
It depends. So, with alcohol, if your blood alcohol content is 0.08 or higher, you're going to go to jail. The fee is always $100. And your license is revoked, meaning you can never get your concealed pistol license again.
Now, that's just if I'm drunk and I have it on me. I didn't fire it, no nothing.
Correct.
They just caught me drunk with my pistol on me.
Yeah, and that happens like every weekend, because state law also requires that if you're stopped by the police and you have a loaded gun in your vehicle,
you got to tell them.
You're required by state law to immediately notify the police officer. So as soon as you tell the police officer, hey, you know what, I have my concealed pistol lights and I have a gun on me, if they smell alcohol on you or if they smell weed on you, you're more than likely going to be arrested, and you're going to be charged with a misdemeanor or a felony, which I don't know because I'm not an attorney, but, you just set yourself up for failure. So that marijuana, the only reason people are able to get their concealed pistol license and they smoke marijuana is because that's protected under HIPAA. So your medical records, when they run the background check, the state police, they don't have access to your medical records.
They don't?
No. That's protected under federal law under HIPAA.
Hmm.
So like if you are, and this happens, you could be seeing a psychiatrist or a therapist for depression, and you may be taking, medication for depression. When they run the background check, unless it was a court order, the state police, they don't have access to your medical records. So they'll issue your concealed pistol license, and, you're under, the care of a psychiatrist, and you're taking medication for, it could be schizophrenia. They don't have access to it.
And they still put this gun in your hand.
Well, they wouldn't put the gun in your hand if they knew, and the only way they would know is if the court ordered you to see a psychiatrist, or you were court ordered, you went to a psych hospital, then that would come up in a background check.
So do they ask questions about, like, if you're taking prescription medications on the application?
So there are two applications. So to buy a gun from an FFL dealer, that's a federal application. if you're applying for your concealed pistol license, that is a state application. On the state application, I would have to look at it again. I don't believe they ask, have you been committed in a psych hospital? Those are some of the questions. Are you addicted to narcotics? I'm not certain. I'd have to look that up again. But they do ask, have you been court ordered into a mental hospital, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common misconceptions about gun laws? Like one that I've heard of that is this open carry thing, where you can legally like just buy a gun, and as long as it's shown on your person, on your hip, you're fine. Is that true?
Yes. So I support the Second Amendment, 110%. At the same time, there are things that you can lawfully, legally do that I wouldn't recommend. So open carry goes back to, Michigan's Constitution. And I'm not an open carry expert, even though, I teach CPL classes. If you want to open carry, you want to join a organization in the state of Michigan that specializes in open carry. And there are organizations that do that. But my understanding is that goes back to, our Constitution. There's nothing in our law that says if you are 18 years of age or older that you cannot legally openly carry a gun. But I don't know of a law. There may be a law that says that you can open carry. But in Michigan, you are allowed to openly carry. And I believe that falls under our Constitution. Now, I don't recommend that. In most metropolitan areas like, Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County, that's going to invite a lot of attention that you don't want, and that could actually put you and your family in jeopardy. What I mean by that is most people that are not gun people don't know that you can legally open carry a gun. So unbeknownst to you, you could be in Walmart and you're open carrying. And what that means is that you have a gun in your holster, and it's completely visible from three sides. So from your front view, from the side view, and from the rear view, a person can clearly see that you have a pistol holstered. And I'm just talking about openly carry pistols. The law with openly carrying a rifle or a shotgun, not my area.
Okay.
All right. But unbeknownst to you, someone in Walmart sees you openly carrying a gun, and it scares them, and they call 911. You don't have any control over that. And they tell 911, hey, you know what, there's this guy, there's this woman in Walmart, and they're threatening me and my child's life. That's not a conspiracy against you. That's what they told 911. And that's not accurate. Openly carrying is not threatening your life, but that's what they told 911.
Right.
Now, 911 should be trained that they should ask follow-up questions. Is this person actually threatening you, or are they openly carrying? But 911 is a person just like you're a person, and people make mistakes. So they may not ask those follow-up questions based upon what the caller told them. So 911 is going to dispatch that to the police, and they're going to say, man, woman in Walmart threatening men, women, and children. So what do you think the police officer's response is going to be? They're going to be on high alert.
They're going to respond to a threat.
Yeah. And I mean, and that, again, this is not a conspiracy. And this is, it can happen just like that. So you're walking down aisle 7 in Walmart, and you turn the aisle and you see people yelling at you, and you see what you perceive as cannons pointed at you because this has scared the holy Jesus out of you. And you have what are called cognitive distortions. Things appear a lot larger, and you may not be able to hear what they're yelling at you because your adrenaline is just spiked.
Right.
And that causes you an automatic response where your hands move like this, and that movement is consistent to law enforcement that you are now going for the what? For the gun. How I teach it is called furtive movement. It's a movement that is consistent to law enforcement based upon their training, that you're going for something that could be used to kill an officer. At that point, the officer or officers are legally justified to use deadly force, as long as it's consistent. The evidence, the dash cam or body camera, witnesses, other officers, as long as that's consistent, it's tragic, but that is a lawful use of deadly force by a police officer. So I don't recommend it. Right. And last reason, I don't recommend it from the standpoint of criminals. The criminals that you need to be, having nightmares about are not scared of you having a gun. They look at that gun as, okay, this man or woman has my money. And that's literally what they're going to tell themselves. They're going to say, yo, he got my money and I'm getting my money. And they're going to shoot you in the back of the head, hit you in the back of the head with a brick. It was on the news. This was on the news. They had video where you had 2 young men, or at least one young man, try to steal a gun from a police officer in uniform. So what do you think they're going to do to you? You can't be 100% aware of your environment 24/7. So it's going to attract attention from criminals, and the criminals that you need to stay awake at night, they're just going to shoot you in the back of the head. They're going to steal your gun. They're going to sell it on the street for $150. It's not worth it.
When it's openly shown like that, that's why you say it's not worth it. So
yeah, you can lawfully do it, but I don't recommend it because it's going to attract unwanted attention, both from law enforcement and criminals.
And criminals, yeah. They can just sneak right up on you and just take it off.
Happens all the time.
Where do you suggest you keep your firearm?
The standard answer to that is strong side hip, and now people are moving to an appendix carry, where the gun is carried in front of you inside the waistband.
Why?
So any decision you make when it comes to firearms and carrying a gun, there are pros and cons. So strong side hip outside the waistband, or OWB, is the quickest way you can access your firearm. It's away from your body a little bit, and you can draw your firearm the quickest. Inside the waistband, or IWB, strong side hip, is also very quick, but it's a little less quick than outside the waistband because the gun is pushed up against your body. The problem with strong side hip, though, is like we've seen on television, a person can sneak up behind you and you're not aware of them, and they can grab your gun. They can grab your gun. So now people are moving to appendix carry, where the gun is on, if you're right-handed, on your right side in front of you. And that way, if someone's trying to take your gun, more than likely they're going to be in front of you and you see them, so you can prepare, a counter to them trying to snatch your gun. Otherwise, they have to kind of bear hug you and reach around you, and that's just,
too much.
Yeah, it's too much. So.
One of my questions with being right there in your appendix, how safe is that? Like,
no, it is.
I'm like, I'm going outside now. I can't take that chance.
Yeah. No, it's 100% safe as long as you have a good gun, and I don't recommend anyone carry a cheap gun. It's 100% safe, but it's not the most comfortable. And you have to find, that sweet spot. And depending on, your size and your body shape, it's not, I've tried it. It's not comfortable for me. So I'm still strong side hip. Okay. Yeah.
What pistol are you training people with?
Whatever gun, they have at the gun range, or a lot of people have purchased a gun, but they don't have their concealed pistol license. So they bought the gun before they take the class. And most of the time, people will buy cheap guns, and they'll get mad at me because I'll tell them, yeah, your gun sucks. It's a garbage gun. I recommend the top 3 gun manufacturers I recommend are Heckler & Koch, or H&K, Glock, and 6 Hour. That's it. And
not Smith & Wesson?
Yeah,
no.
Not Smith & Wesson?
No. So how I describe guns, most people know cars better than guns. So H&K, Glock, and Sig Sauer are top shelf. Like, they're the Mercedes, BMW.
I haven't even heard of, I'm not a gun expert, but
I've never heard of 6 Hour. I heard of H&K.
I've heard of H&K, but not
6 Hour.
Glock and 6 Hour.
Glock and 6 Hour. Yeah. But again, people who are really into guns, that's, they know all of those guns. I'm not saying Smith & Wesson is a bad gun, but a Smith & Wesson using a vehicle analogy is a Toyota Corolla,
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with a Toyota Corolla, but, I want
You want a Mercedes?
I want a Mercedes, yeah. And when I say a Mercedes and guns, H&K, Glock, and Sig Sauer are guns that are designed for combat.
So is that like more sort of geared towards safety or accuracy?
Both.
Okay.
So the H&K, Glock, and Sig Sauer, when it comes to militaries around the world, survive their torture tests. And they're the tests for the military to adopt a firearm for just a regular soldier, much less a operator like a tier 1 or tier 2 soldier. The standard is, it's just ridiculous. H&K, Glock, Sig Sauer, they will pass that test. Smith & Wesson, not so much.
Do you suggest having more than one weapon on you at any particular time?
The rule is 2 is 1, 1 is none. So the rule is you should carry 2 guns on you, or 1 gun and a backup mag. But I've been carrying a gun, since 2009.
They suggest you carry 2 weapons?
It depends on the instructor. Instructors, we have type A personalities, and every instructor is different. But, the standard for most I won't say most, but I say the rule is 2 is 1, 1 is none. So carry 2 guns on you, or 1 gun and a backup magazine. Now, me personally, I don't obey that rule. I just carry 1 gun because, again, I'm a small guy. I've been carrying at least until 2010. Guns are heavy. So I just carry 1 gun and the magazine that's in the gun. And if my gun jams or goes down, it just wasn't my day.
Let's talk about some of the scenarios where you can carry guns at, where you're allowed to, where you're not allowed to.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. So those areas are called pistol-free zones. So state pistol-free zones, you cannot carry in a bar. So that's the biggest one.
No bars or where they sell liquor at all.
That's
Let's say like a bowling alley. It has a bar in the bowling alley, but can I legally take my pistol inside of the bowling alley?
You should be able to carry a gun in a bowling alley.
I feel like I've seen people with guns in a bowling alley.
Yeah. And also, let me say this. Everything I'm saying in this podcast is for educational purposes. It does not constitute legal advice. So,
Understood.
All right. So you can carry, you should be able to carry in a bowling alley. Now, any business can make themselves a pistol-free zone. All they have to do is post a sign, and they don't even have to post a sign. If the manager or the owner of the bowling alley says, hey, you have a gun on you, you have to leave.
And I have to abide by that?
If you don't want to get arrested, because if the owner or manager says that you have to leave, if you don't leave, you're committing the
but it's
crime.
concealed. How would they even know?
Again, it doesn't matter how they know. If a business owner or manager says you have to leave the business, if you refuse to leave, that's a trespassing charge, and I believe that's a misdemeanor. And that's regardless whether you're carrying a gun or not. A business does have the right to refuse service. Now, if you feel they're refusing your service because of discrimination, you still need to leave, and you just talk to an attorney after.
Right.
So any business can make their business a pistol-free zone by either posting a sign, or if the business manager owner says, hey, you need to leave. If you don't leave, you're breaking the law. You're trespassing.
So hypothetically, if a business has a sign posted on the door that says no pistols allowed, and something just jumps off in the business.
Yeah.
And cops come up to me and they find out that I got a pistol on me, but there's a sign on the door that clearly says I can't have that.
Yep.
Am I in trouble? Can I go to jail?
Yes.
Oh,
yep.
wow.
Okay. Now, you just because you violated the pistol-free zone, because it was a pistol-free zone as soon as they posted the sign, doesn't mean that you've lost your right to defend yourself. So you should not be facing any charges as long as you were legally justified to use deadly force. But you could still be charged with the misdemeanor of violating a pistol-free zone.
Got you.
And once you have been charged with a crime and convicted of a crime in criminal court, it doesn't have to be a felony. Now you've opened yourself up to civil court. Mm-hmm. So they didn't charge you with, a felony, but they charge you with a misdemeanor. So if that family family of the person you shot wants to sue you, now you are subject to civil court where you could lose your home and everything that you own. Okay. Yeah.
So bars.
A bar is a pistol-free zone, but a restaurant that serves alcohol is not a pistol-free zone.
Like the bowling alley. The bowling alley can serve alcohol, but it's not.
Right.
Unless someone says it is.
Right. They can always say, hey, you know what, you can't carry. But a bar, what the law says.
What do they feel the big difference is? If I can order 12 margaritas in this bar, and I can also order 12 margaritas at this Panda Express, like, what's the...
So what the law says is if their primary source of income is the sale of alcoholic liquor by glass and consumed on the premises. So, for example, a liquor store is not a pistol-free zone. Their primary source of income is the sale of alcoholic liquor, but it's not consumed on the premises. All right?
Right.
A restaurant is not a pistol-free zone. Their primary source of income is the sale of food. So, therefore, it's not a pistol-free zone.
Okay.
The casino, for example, would be a pistol-free zone because the casino floor is considered a bar. So you can't carry a gun.
Did not know that.
Yeah. The casino floor, you can't carry a gun on a casino floor. Plus, they got security there. They're not going to allow you to carry a gun in there. Other pistol-free zones, schools are a little different. Now, a school is a pistol-free zone, and schools include the school's property. Now, there's an exception. The parent or legal guardian, if they're dropping off or picking up, and the gun needs to stay in the vehicle. So if you have a child that goes to elementary, middle, or high school, you as a parent, if you have your concealed pistol license, you can have a gun on you, but you and the gun needs to stay in the vehicle, and you are in the process of picking up or dropping off, you're not in violation. But if you get out the vehicle and go into the school, now you're in violation.
I knew a school had to be one.
Yeah.
What about churches?
A church is a pistol-free zone. Again, there's an exception, unless you get permission from the presiding official.
If the pastor says I can bring it in?
Your pastor's probably carrying a gun if they're smart. Yeah. You have a lot of pastors, especially the large churches, their security, you don't want to mess with their security. They're carrying guns. So, yeah, but a place of worship, it's not just a church. Any place of worship is a pistol-free zone. The only exception is if you get permission from the presiding official, and if you get permission, you want to make sure you get that in writing.
Any official place of worship?
Any place of worship, yeah. So it doesn't have to be a church. It can be a mosque. It can be a temple. It can be a synagogue. All of those are pistol-free zones unless you get permission from the presiding official.
Banks?
A bank is not a pistol-free zone. Even the banks that have the metal detectors, they just don't want you to go in. And I don't recommend you go to a bank that has a metal detector because you're much more likely to get robbed at that bank because criminals know you don't have a gun. But a bank is not a pistol-free zone. But the post office is a pistol-free zone.
Did they give a reason for that? Does it have any stipulations with it?
The post office is covered under federal law. So you can't carry a gun in a post office.
Okay.
And like the bridge tunnel going to Canada, that's federal property. You can't have a gun on federal property. And you get a lot of people from Detroit that mess that up because, we're unique. You can, go across the bridge into Canada. And
you can do that by accident.
Yeah.
You can just have your pistol on you. You on the freeway. You accidentally hit that.
Yep.
You got a problem.
75. Yeah. You got a problem.
You got a problem.
And you are going to have some federal agents surround you.
Oh,
and yeah.
My God.
Because you're on federal property.
Ooh.
The McNamara building, for example, that's federal property. You can't have a gun on federal property.
And you can't take them state to state either, right?
Well, it depends. It's called reciprocity. The state that's closest to us that you can't carry a gun is Illinois. So you can't have a gun in Illinois. But if you are traveling from Michigan straight all the way down to Florida, I believe all of those states have reciprocity with Michigan. you still have to make sure you're obeying that state's law as well. In every state, their laws are different.
If I have my CCW, I can take my pistol from here to Florida.
Yep.
What about planes? On planes, how do you carry on planes?
You can, unless you want to go to prison.
Well, you can pack it in your luggage or declare it? How does that work?
So I can teach in Maryland, for example, when I flew to Maryland with my gun. You need to be really careful with airports because that's going to be under federal law as well. So you need to check with, federal flying, I forgot what the acronym is, but you need to check with the airline that you're flying. TSA. You need to check with the airline that you're flying through, and I forgot the federal agency that deals with, flying. But what you have to do, the gun has to be unloaded, and you have to declare it. And it needs to be in a lockbox that is rated for TSA travel. And the lockboxes they'll have on the box, TSA approved. Mm-hmm. So the gun needs to be unloaded in TSA approved lockbox. Your ammo, I believe, needs to be separate from the gun as well. So when I flew to Maryland, I had a lockbox for my gun, and just my gun was in that lockbox. I even had a cable lock going through that gun. And then I had a box of ammo in a separate lockbox and my empty magazines with the ammo. And I went to the counter, I declared it. They'll check the gun to make sure it's unloaded. You need to have, I believe, a lock for your luggage as well. And then there'll be a chain of custody. So when you get to your destination, you'll have to pick up the gun at security, and you'll have to show them ID, and then you can...
You have to also be cognizant of the state laws that you're traveling to as well.
Correct.
When you get over there to that state, even though you got to that state,
right.
When you get there,
you can be arrested as soon as you... Yeah, like New York. That's happened a lot in New York because you've traveled with the gun legally, but you can't have a gun in the state of New York, and they will arrest you right there.
So you got a lot of homework to do when you before you buy a gun and
before you travel with one.
Right. Yeah.
This whole gun thing, you have to really know the laws and everything with that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And one of the things I really emphasize when I'm teaching is the use of deadly force. A lot of information on the internet, a lot of people are 100% wrong when it comes to the use of deadly force.
Now, I was going to ask you about that. That was the next thing coming up. That's one of the main
things we really need to know.
People think I can shoot it in the house as long as I'm on my property if I feel, and then they're going to jail for it.
Yeah, so, shoot them and drag them inside the house, and I'm like, man, you know what? I'm about to punch you in the nose.
Okay, so break it down for us, because a lot of us are having problems with that.
Yeah.
That we are being misinformed.
Yeah, my favorite subject. Okay. So everyone wants to know when you can shoot someone.
When I can fire it off.
Right, when you can shoot someone. By definition, first thing you want to understand is that a firearm, by definition, is deadly force, period.
That's what it's made for.
Correct. It depends. How I explain it, your firearm is a rescue device, all right? You can only legally use it to rescue your life or a third party, most of the time, that being a loved one, all right? But in using that rescue device...
You got to love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you have loved ones that you don't love, my advice is don't use deadly force. Now, that might be the reason why I'm single, but that's a different story. That's a different podcast. But so there's no legal argument that you can make that you didn't want to use deadly force if you used a gun to defend yourself. By definition, a firearm is deadly force. The legal standard before you can use deadly force is pretty high. So you have two types of force. You have deadly force. By definition, a firearm is deadly force. Then you have what is called non-deadly force. Non-deadly force is force a person can use against you that is not likely to result in your death. All right? And non-deadly force is the most complicated. I don't
Is it a thin line between non-deadly and deadly force?
No, it can be very, very complicated. So I'm gonna explain it in simple terms, and then it just gets more and more complicated. So we're gonna start with 1 + 1 is 2, but then you can get into algebra and trigonometry. But you have to start first. You have to learn 1 + 1 is 2.
Okay.
So first, you need to realize that a firearm is deadly force. All right. It can never be non-deadly force.
Okay.
And I'm shooting the kneecaps, and
it's deadly force.
Deadly force.
It's deadly.
You're trying to kill.
Shot me in the pinky toe. Deadly
Shooting
force.
below the kneecap is still deadly force.
Deadly force.
All right.
Period. Okay. So a lot of people think, oh, well, what if I just shoot them to get them off of me? Or what if I just shoot them in the foot? It's deadly force. Legally, your intent was to cause another human being's death, which is a homicide.
So that's attempted murder.
Attempted murder and a homicide are different. So homicide means you've taken a human being's life. The police are just the police are doing an investigation, and the prosecuting attorney, a judge, and a jury will determine whether the homicide or attempted homicide was justified. All right. So you have deadly force, you have non-deadly force. So you're only justified to use deadly force to prevent 3 conditions. Okay.
All right.
The first condition is the easiest. You can use deadly force to prevent the condition of death, the death of yourself or a third party. Most of the time, that third party is going to be a loved one. But in Michigan, that third party can be a complete stranger. Now, me personally, when I teach the class, I tell my students, but I can be an a-hole, I would not use deadly force to protect a stranger. That's just me personally. But, I am not that
But why do you say that?
You gotta love them.
You gotta love them.
Keep it simple. So anytime I have a student, they say I would use deadly force to save people in the mall from an active shooter.
Okay.
All right. I will point to a person in the class and I'll say, "Do you know this person?" And they'll say, "Yeah, I don't know this person." And I'll say, "Okay." And this is the same person that will say, "I'll stop an active shooter to save everyone's life." Mm-hmm. All right. And I'll ask this person, "Are you willing to go to prison for the rest of your life for that stranger?" And that's when they'll pause. And I'm like, "Oh, that pause right there, you should not use deadly force." But I'll ask that same person, "Okay, are you willing to go to prison to save your child's life?" And there's no pause. Yes, absolutely. Doesn't matter the circumstances, absolutely. So I'll tell them, yeah, you should use deadly force to save your child's life. You should not use deadly force to save a stranger's life. Now, that's legal, but that's not moral. But I don't teach morality. I'm not a philosopher.
Well, if someone's like shooting up a school, you're going to go handle your business. Well,
so you're one of the people that he got to ask, are you going to prison?
I'm going to prison. I'm going to prison.
Listen, no, I mean, if it's a school, I would like to think that, I'll save children, and, children are an exception for me. But what I'm saying is, if a person chose not to, you can't lock them up in prison, or you can't take them to jail, because there's nothing in the law that says even as a police officers are not legally required to sacrifice their life to save children or you. The Supreme Court has already made that ruling. Wow. Even a firefighter, if a firefighter refuses to go into a fire because they know they're going to die, they're not breaking the law. And that's gone all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Signed up for that job.
No, and I agree, especially when it comes to children. I think we can all agree that you should be willing to sacrifice your life to save a child. All I'm explaining is that if a person chose not to use deadly force, they can't face any legal jeopardy, especially as a civilian. There's no legal jeopardy. Okay. Now, and of course, we would all use deadly force to save children's lives. Right. So, let me be clear on that point.
So what's the second one?
The second is you can use deadly force to prevent sexual assault. Now, when we say sexual assault, we're referring to the most heinous form of sexual assault, which is commonly referred to as rape.
Right.
All right. So you can use deadly force to prevent yourself from being raped. And then the third, which is the most complicated, you can use deadly force to prevent great bodily harm. But you can only use deadly force to prevent great bodily harm. You can't use deadly force to prevent bodily harm.
What's the difference?
You're getting socked in the face, that's not great.
Well, it depends. So
who decides?
It won't be you. It's going to be the police that do the investigation. It's going to be the detective. It's going to be the prosecuting attorney. It's going to be a judge and a jury. They're going to decide your fate. So what's the difference between great bodily harm versus bodily harm? Great bodily harm is harm a person can cause you that is likely to result in your what? Your death.
Right.
So that's what great bodily harm is. Bodily harm is harm, but it's not likely to result in your death. But that can be complicated because of something called a disparity of force. So I'm a skinny guy. Anyone that looks at me is like, I'm light in the pants. So you're an average size guy. So just looking at us standing side by side, who's bigger? You're bigger than I am. So me sucker punching you, that's not great bodily harm. That's bodily harm. I'm using non-deadly force on you. So you're probably going to go to the hospital, but no doctor, no nurse would say, hey, you are likely to die from this punch. We're going to stitch up your lip. You're not likely to die from that. But if I had a knife and I were to threaten you with a knife, the knife is deadly force. But if I were using my body against you because I'm smaller than you, unless it's extenuating circumstances, you could have a gun on you. You would not be justified to use deadly force against me. If you were to use deadly force against me, you're going to go to prison, and you should go to prison.
What if you're going to work on him? Like you just
right. And that's a very good question. Okay, so remember we talked about deadly force versus non-deadly force.
Right.
All right. If I'm going to work on you, I didn't punch you once. I gave you that 3-piece. All right. I'm going to tell you that if I'm using my body as a weapon against you, that's non-deadly force. And you can use force to stop it. You just can't use your gun because by definition, your gun is what kind of force? Deadly force. It wouldn't be proportional. You have to use a proportional amount of force. So you also have to use non-deadly force. So if you were to ball up your fist and hit me so hard that it killed me, that's deadly force, and you will still, just like if you use a gun, you're going to go to prison.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Now, how tall are you and how big are you?
I'm 5'10" and a half.
About 100.
I have 175 pounds.
All right, so because it needs to be a great disparity of force. So let's make you 230 pounds, and I'm 140 pounds. That's a big difference. His body against me is deadly force. He is the knife, he is the gun, he is the sword. But my body against him is non-deadly force because it's a great disparity of force. So if I'm using my body against him, he has to use non-deadly means in his defense. And he has to be careful if he's much bigger than me because he could hit me in the head one time and kill me. That's deadly force.
Bro, I'm 350. You telling me because of my weight, if I'm in a violent situation, I'm getting somebody up off of me and I take them down accidentally, I'm in the wrong because I'm a bigger dude?
It depends on if your use of force caused their death. If your use of force caused their death, that was deadly force, whether it's your body or your gun. That's deadly force.
No, you're trained in martial arts, right?
I'm not any good in martial arts, but I am trained in martial arts.
And you start doing all this,
right?
And you hit me a couple of times, and
okay, so I said
that's a weapon,
right? Okay, but is that weapon a deadly weapon?
To me, when you
it's not.
When you did this, I got scared. You start wow.
No. Okay, all right. So it's called the Self-Defense Act. Michigan Self-Defense Act says you can use deadly force if you honestly and reasonably believe that you're facing imminent risk of death, sexual assault, or great bodily harm. All right, so let's
Bruce
use
Lee was cold with
right.
it.
Okay, so
very little.
All right,
very little.
Right. Okay, so now let's make me Bruce Lee. I'm that good in martial arts, which I'm not. But let's, for the sake of argument, let's say I'm that good. You would only be justified to use deadly force once I put you in a position that you couldn't defend yourself.
I got to wait.
Yeah, and absolutely. And
I got to wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, you seem to look a lot.
The only exception to that is if you know me. So if I'm Bruce Lee and you've trained at my martial arts school, then you don't have to wait, because you know for a fact that I am that dangerous, I'm that deadly. But if you don't know me, you can't use that in your defense, because you're only allowed to use what you knew at the time you used deadly force.
Would you recommend that someone just not get a gun based on their personality?
Okay, yeah, and I've had to kick out a few students because they were, not mentally stable. I recommend that all law-abiding, responsible, and moral people get a gun, but not
Recommend.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, but not everyone is moral and responsible. And for those people, whether they can legally purchase a gun or not, I don't recommend they get a gun, because a gun incorporated into their family is actually more dangerous.
Yes.
But if you're a moral, responsible person, I think everyone should have a gun, should be able to defend themselves.
Let's talk about gun safety. Mm-hmm. Do you have any children?
No, I don't have any children, but I have cousins and people at the house that are little ones running around.
So you really don't have to be that responsible when you go home to your family.
Right.
You're tired. You get off work and you take your gun and you just lay it on the table.
Right.
And a lot like what we do here is a lot of memorial stuff, obituaries.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
We hear these horror stories all the time, where a young child has gotten their parents' gun and did some harm to either themselves or someone else. Mm-hmm. So, talk about the safety measures. What you should do when you have a gun.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's run through that.
Okay, so there was a change in Michigan's law called the Safe Storage Act. So Michigan has passed a law called the Self-Storage Act, and now you are legally required to store your gun safely when you know or should know children or unauthorized adults will have access to that firearm. And as a result of that law, all DHS offices or FIA offices, if you're old like me, now give away free cable locks. Whether you have a case with the state of Michigan or not, if you go to any DHS office and tell them you would like a free cable lock, they have free cable locks available to anyone who goes into the office. So that's big. The safety precautions I have to take are completely different than a person who has children in the home. So what I recommend, and I have the same recommendation. My recommendation hasn't changed prior to the Safe Storage Act, and it's the same recommendation after the Safe Storage Act. You need to store your gun so children especially do not have access to it. That is ideally going to be a safe or a lockbox. But understand that just because you have a gun locked up in a safe or a lockbox, you've just made it inconvenient for a child to gain access to it. They still have access to it because they will steal the key to your safe, or they will literally figure out the combination to your safe. So what I also recommend if you have children, first you need a safe, ideally, or minimum a lockbox. And I recommend you don't hide guns from children. The children should know where the guns are locked up in the home, because children are curious. They're going to go through your closets, whether you realize it or not, and they're going to find that safe. And if they don't know that they're not allowed to go in that, their number one priority is going to be to get in there. And if they get in there and get access to your gun, it's still going to be another memorial. So tell children where the guns are, but explain to them that they're not allowed to go into the safe. But explain to them that if they ask for your permission, I apologize. If they ask for your permission, you will let them see those guns, but you'll just make sure that those guns are unloaded first. What that means is you have them leave the area, and you check all of those firearms like 20 times to make sure that they're unloaded. You take all the ammunition, and the ammunition, literally, you have to put the ammunition in a separate room. Then have the children come into that room, and if they want to see those guns, if they want to even pick up those guns, let them do that, because it's going to eliminate the curiosity, and you know that those firearms are unloaded. And they're going to make mistakes, but you want to use that as an opportunity to teach them the 3 rules when it comes to firearm safety. Never point your gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use. And the more times they ask to see the gun, the more opportunity you have to teach them the firearm safety.
I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense.
Yep.
It would seem like to have your gun locked up with cables and locks when something goes down, it's like, man, hold on, what's the combination?
Right.
I got to take the key, get it out.
Okay, so I want to address that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a balancing act, especially with the change in Michigan's law. And this law is so new. Instructors, police, legislators, just gun owners are trying to figure out how to navigate that. If you have your gun in your home for home safety, the gun, in my opinion, and again, you're going to have to talk to an attorney about this because this law is less than a year old. The gun is not being stored. It's actually in use. And some people, they live in neighborhoods. It's like, no, I need my gun to protect my family in my home.
Right.
Now, if that's the case, you need to have additional safety measures because legally you're still responsible if a child gains access to that. So what some people do is they'll have the loaded gun on their person at home. Like the gun is in their holster and they're on the couch, they're playing with their kids, and the gun is loaded in the holster. That gun is not being stored. That gun is in use. So if criminal breaks down the door and says, I'm going to kill you and your family, they have immediate access to that firearm to save their family. Now, that gun isn't stored, it's in use. And a lot of people will just keep it on their person, and that's safe for their environment, even though they have children. Their children are used to it. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Another option is you could have the gun unloaded, and you keep the loaded magazine on your person. Okay. So the gun is unloaded. There's no cable lock going through it. And if someone were to break in, all you have to do is grab the gun, put the magazine in the gun, pull the slide back, and now you can defend yourself. That's an option. But there are a million options. This is something that each and every household is going to have to figure out how to navigate that, because the safer the gun is stored, the less access you have to it. The more access you have to the gun, the less safely it's stored.
What type of technology has come out that will allow you to access the gun quicker?
Yeah, there's a lot of technology.
Fingerprint, face.
Yep.
I mean, AI. There's got to be something out there.
Oh yeah, they have gun safes that will scan your fingerprints. I don't know if they have a retina scan safe yet, but I'm sure they'll probably have one, within the next few years. But you have combination locks. You have some people will keep the key on their person, so they'll just have a safe with the key, and they keep it on a keychain or a necklace. You have the scanners that will scan your fingerprints. The issue with that is technology. The more technology, sometimes when it doesn't work,
it's a problem.
It's a problem. So, there's a lot of technology out there, and every year, technology is growing quicker and quicker. Yep.
Mr. Campbell, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here with us and answer some of our questions, especially. Thank you.
Appreciate
only
it.
thing we need from you and us to let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, sign up for classes, things like that.
Yeah, each of my class, I give my cell phone number to everyone, so I can everyone, you can call me. My cell phone number is 313 area code 778-0535. That's the quickest and easiest way to reach me.
And he's going to leave a bunch of business cards
Oh,
up
yes,
here.
yeah.
So
Yep.
you can come up to, can you picture this?
Yep, absolutely.
Get one of his cards. He's a big advocate on defense. He met him. He was coming to get some shirts for his martial arts. So he's big on defending himself, whether it's kicking butt or shooting.
Right, I
so in
cover all
defending
the
himself, he
bases.
covers all bases.
Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure. You know,
I appreciate
I'm
it.
glad you came by and
I appreciate
gave us
you
this good class on.
Thanks.
That was amazing. I didn't know all that.
Okay, listen, I appreciate you having me. If you need anything, feel free to let me know.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
thanks.
Yeah.
Boogie.
You have just listened to the Can You Picture This podcast? The podcast for the strongest, fastest, most powerful t-shirt/print shop on this side of the Eastern Seaboard. You can catch us in the heart of Detroit, Greenfield and Grand River, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Our address is 14223 Greenfield Road, Detroit, Michigan 48227. Our phone number is 313-273-5000.